All right, it was effective, it worked, and that's all it was. Now, in addition to the enough R value on that plane, how did that plane deal with leaks? Have you all ever been on a plane? Have you seen the door and the gaskets and the seals as you walk through from the ramp and get on it? Have you ever seen that door? And when they tighten it up, do you think that they make that plane pretty airtight? Because at 39,000 feet, anybody here a pilot? Anybody a pilot? Pilot. At 39,000 feet, how much oxygen is in the air? Enough for you to live, or would you die?
You'd die.
All right, so I didn't die. I made it. Okay? So at 39,000 feet, this plane has got its own environment that's healthy for me because the plane is pretty airtight. Okay, now, there's a radiant component. What's the biggest source of radiant heat that you know of? It hangs in the sky every day from morning to evening. You know, it kind of goes, sun. Sun is a great source of radiant heat, but you are too. You radiate heat and things in all, you know, all kind of things radiate heat, but the sun is one that we can all relate to. That plane how much shade, when that plane is above the clouds, flying between Earth and the sun, how much shade was there for that plane to be protected from the sun? 0? Okay. So what did the Boeing engineers use to protect me from all that radiant energy from the sun? Because if you all have been to the Smithsonian Air and Science Museum in Washington, D.C., and you've gone in the main door, and if you look down the hallway to the right, there's a space capsule down there that has been there since we went to the moon, and it's really kind of neat because a long ways away you can see there's something about that spacecraft that's special. It's gold in color. And when you get down there, that spacecraft has got a lot of gold foil around it. We protected the astronauts as they went outside our atmosphere into space where the radiant energy is, really big. We protected them to a large degree with gold foil. We wrapped the hydraulic lines and the cylinders with gold foil to keep the oil from boiling so that the hydraulics would work. Okay, the skin of the airplane that I flew in is made out of what kind of metal? Aluminum. Okay, now then, you have in your home, now I'm going to pull in another part here, you have in your home a lot of windows. And those windows are made out of glass. Here's the emissivity value for glass. Glass lets 92% of the radiant energy through it. Plain glass, if the sun represents 100 units of radiant energy, 92 of those units will come through plain glass into your home to heat your home up in the summertime or for your home to lose to the outside cold in the wintertime. If you had, instead of glass in your windows, they were aluminum, that's an enticing thought, isn't it? But you had solid aluminum windows, you would stop 95% of that radiant energy from the sun from even coming in. Only 5% would come through. And if you were to have gold foil on your windows, you would stop 98% of that radiant energy from coming in or being in the summer or being lost in the winter. So when it gets down to it, if glass lets 92% go through, aluminum only lets 5% go through, and gold only lets 2% go through, what would you like to have your windows made out of? Gold, there you go. Kind of expensive. But you know what? On the way home tonight, you could stop at the grocery store and get you several rolls of aluminum foil and then go home tonight and cut that and fit it and seal it, glue it, stick it, whatever, tape it to your windows, cover it all up with aluminum, and immediately your home would be more comfortable. Tomorrow's going to be cooler, your air conditioner won't hardly run. Next winter, you're going to be a lot warmer and your heating won't run as much. And all you got to do is cover it with, how expensive is a tube of aluminum foil at the grocery store? $3? Just get you, $100 would buy you a lot of aluminum foil, wouldn't it? And it works. How many's going to do it when they go home tonight? And you'd be the first one if that. I've been preaching this for 20 years. I ain't got anybody to do it yet. And you ladies, would you? Okay, here's the thing. You want to see outside. Yeah, you want to see outside. And you like your windows. And you like, if glass was so good, we'd live in greenhouses. Okay? All windows are an energy penalty. All windows are an energy penalty, okay? So we're going to come back to windows in a minute, but I had to go there because we're talking about this. When it gets down to it, just understand that the only place in your house that fiberglass can do what it's tested to do, because the government provides a test for all insulation called ASTM, some kind of number. You know, American Society of Testing Materials, some kind of number, and it provides the test requirements. It's a box that's going to have 2 samples in it, because if you don't have 2 samples, you'll never know if it was a bad test or not. So you have 2 samples, so the results will be the same. You have a hot surface, and you got 2 cold surfaces. Then you put 2 samples in there, 2 samples of insulation, and the box then is sealed up airtight, because we're not testing convection. It's insulated around the outside because we're not testing radiant. All we're testing is conduction. The material that you're going to test, it touches the cold surface, it touches the hot surface, and then you turn it on. And here's the thing. They use 75 degrees as the mean temperature. I can show that in a minute. Let me show it to you. They use 75 degrees as the mean temperature, right? Because that represents your home comfort. Then they say, okay, 30 degrees, you can only have a 60-degree range for it to be a valid test. So if you're going to have a mean temperature of 75, it means you're going to have 30 degrees up and 30 degrees down. So your hot surface comes 105, your cold surface comes 45. They turn it on. They sit there and wait till everything gets to a steady state. And when it gets to that steady state, they measure the R value, and that's what all insulation goes through. Now, the only place in your home that even comes close to being similar to the way the product is tested for fiberglass is in an outside wall, because that box has got an end, a right end, a left end, a top, a bottom, a front and back, correct? It's all airtight. Well, your outside stud wall, you got a left stud, a right stud, top plate, sill plate, outside sheeting, inside drywall, so you've got that box that's similar to what the product was tested at. However, most of your homes, that box, if you will, is not airtight like that box was. So what happens then is, because convection occurs, the product is compromised on its effectiveness. So if you can think in terms of, okay, how can I seal that box up? And it's tough in an existing home, it would work better. But here's the long and short of it. Your walls are not your worst part of your home for insulation. Up there is, and down there is. So there's where you're probably going to want to spend your money, up there and down there, to get the biggest bang for your buck. And that way you don't have to spend your money on the outside wall trying to figure out how can I make that cavity airtight, because you're not going to get a lot of results here. You'll get a lot more results up here and down there. Okay? And when it gets down to it, understand this about insulation. It is all about 3 ways that heat travels: conduction, convection, radiant. There are some insulations that handle more of those ways than others. And if you're up there, if fiberglass were laying on your attic floor, can air go through that fiberglass? And it can, let me use the term, wash the heat from your hot drywall ceiling. It can wash that out and kind of compromise the fiberglass's R value effectiveness. Cellulose, much more dense. You saw very little air move through there. Much more effective. Foam, even more effective, because air don't go through it. So now we got a product that takes care of convection and conduction effectively. So a while ago, did you all recall we talked about an appointment with a what was the doctor? Chiropractor. Okay. Well, if you were to spray foam up in your attic, think about this, because this is something you can do. Let me just scroll on down here. Most of you have an attic like this, where you've got your insulation on your attic floor, right? And if your ceiling is holy, okay, it's a holy ceiling. It is. And the insulation then is not very effective for convection, then you lose heat, goes right on out. What if, instead of just adding insulation to that, you were to think in terms of this? You say, what if I change where I put my insulation. Now, the codes say you can do this, but you must use an insulation that does not allow air to go through it, because in the winter, if it's 20 degrees outside and it's 70 degrees in your home and you've got that holy ceiling and this warm humid air goes up and goes through your insulation, what's the next surface that's going to hit here? The sheeting, which is made out of wood, and when you've got that cold wood surface and warm humid air hitting it and you get condensation, what happens then on that wood? Wood is food for mold. It is food. So you're going to rot your roof off. So the codes say, no, wait, we don't want to let you do that. That's not a good investment. So if you're going to do this, you've got to use an insulation that is an effective air barrier so air don't go through it. Now, if you did do that, does it make sense that you don't have to go buy all that caulk and seal your ceiling and make that chiropractor appointment, because your insulation your insulation is taking care of air leaks and the R value, the conduction? Get two for the price of one? Plus, if we go back to the other scenario, let me see if I can back it up here. Hey, first time. What's this a source of? Radiant heat. And I chose an outside temperature of 95, so kind of obvious it's summertime. So it's 95 degrees here, all over your house it's 95 degrees outside, right? The codes in Kentucky, as the codes in southern Indiana, say you must have R13 insulation in your wall. But your codes say that you've got to have R38 on your attic floor. Wait a minute. If it's 95 here, 95 here, 95 here, why do we have to have 3 times more R value here than we do here? Because what?
Your attic's in heaven.
Your attic is hot. You betcha. You've got to have a lot more R value here to protect yourself from this hot environment we create when we build a home and insulate the attic floor. We do this ourselves. We get what we ask for. You want cheap? He'll give you cheap, okay? And then we have to deal with this hot attic. Well, what if we didn't have a hot attic? What if now, instead of having this hot attic that we got to have all this R value here for to protect us from, we said, hey, let's consider a different strategy. The sun's the same, right? In fact, a while ago, the sun would heat these shingles up to about 140 degrees. Then it's radiant energy. Radiant heat passes through air. It doesn't heat air up. How cold was it at 39,000 feet? Minus 60 degrees. The sun's radiant energy passed through that air, but it didn't warm it up. Radiant energy doesn't warm air up or space. But when radiant energy strikes a solid surface, it warms that surface up. If you're standing outside in the sun, you get warm, right? If you pick up something black today or tomorrow, it's going to be a lot hotter than the outside air temperature. Radiant energy can heat things up to a hotter temperature than air temperature. So the radiant energy of the sun's heating this shingle up to 140 degrees. Now, once the shingles get to 140 degrees, it becomes conductive heat. It conducts through the shingles, conducts through the tar paper, conducts through the sheeting. Then on the bottom of your sheeting becomes radiant again and goes down and heats up all the surface in your attic to make your attic 140 degrees. But here, same sun, same 140 degree shingle, the heat conducts through the shingles, conducts through the tar paper, conducts through the sheeting, and now you can put R19 insulation there, and that's enough R value to keep that radiant energy at bay so that our attic will be the same temperature as your home, or nearly so. Which of these two homes would you like to invest in?
The one without the snow on.
What do you mean the one without? This snow's heavy. This snow's heavy. What, all that weight on that house, it's going to push it in the ground or going to collapse the roof or something. Why would you want to buy this house?
The insulation is working.
Oh, it expresses how effective this home's performing. Why don't you all become students of your home? Your home will tell you what it's doing. This home, I took these pictures. It's 18 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. I took these pictures. Can you all see that? Kind of? Well, right here, the insulation is right, there you go. The insulation is right against the roof. That's frost. And guess what? The frost is still there. But where the insulation is down on the attic floor, there's enough heat going through that it melted the frost. You know, you can look at your homes on a frosty morning or a light snow, and here's a picture with all the roof. Again, insulation against it. No, wait a minute, that's the front door. There's no insulation there. It's outside. But here, look at this overhang. Why is the overhang white with frost and the rest of the house is melted? Because the overhang is in the outside, and so there's no melting going on. All right? You can read your home, and if you want to wait till this winter, then save that $500 and read your home. You can take care of some of your issues here.
Well,
Look
I
at
don't have
there.
to get up there and shovel that snow off my roof.
No, you don't have to get up there. Just get out and look up there. Okay? I mean, now that you know what you're looking for, do you see it? Huh? Oh, look at here. We got an apartment. We got 2 chimneys. What's attached to these chimneys in these apartments? Fireplace. Okay, now, this morning, you can't tell here, but when I took that picture, there was no fire in those fireplaces. None. But look at the roof. Right around the fireplace, right around the chimney, I mean, the frost is melted. Now, here was an exhaust fan from a bathroom. That's why that's melted. Okay, but around here, around the chimneys, it's all melted. If you went in that apartment and you looked at that fireplace, what's above the mantel and on that wall that goes all the way up to the ceiling? No. Brick. You're going to see all that brick, and that brick goes all the way up through 2 stories above the roof, and the brick absorbs heat from your apartment, conducts it all the way up, and above the roof line, it's above the insulation, there's enough heat up there in the outside open air to melt the frost on the roof. Don't tell me chimneys don't pump heat out of your house. They do. They do. Okay. Now, windows. Here we go. We said earlier that all windows are an energy penalty, and that if you were to go buy aluminum foil tonight, enough just to cover your glass in your home, you would immediately use less of Kenergy's electricity. Guarantee it. I can guarantee you it will work, but none of you are going to do it because you don't like the look. Hey, have you all ever heard of the University of Kentucky?
Yes.
Somebody's heard about it. Okay. I was invited to the University of Kentucky to do a seminar for the architects that teach the students to become architects. These guys, they're professionals. They need what's called continuing education credits. And they heard about my seminar and they invited me down there. I said, hey, I've made it to the big time, right? Yeah, there you go. Okay, I'm going to University of Kentucky. I'm going to teach the architects. And they're loving everything I'm talking about. They're just eating it up. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, I never heard it that way before. Oh, yeah. And then I got to windows. And when I said all windows are an energy penalty, they looked at their watch and they, and then back then, this has been several years ago, when I said what I said about fireplaces being an energy penalty, they go, and they turned around. They couldn't wait for the program to be over. They had to listen to me for 3 hours, but I tuned them out when I told them that windows are an energy penalty and fireplaces don't belong in a home, okay? Because from the perspective of heat loss and the actual risk for carbon monoxide, they really don't. Open flames don't belong in our home. Okay, now think about it. If you were going to buy a set of plans for a new home, and that set of plans was just the outside walls with no windows in, would you buy that set of plans? Or would you buy the set of plans that had the same floor plan but had windows in it? These architects know where their bread's buttered. They're just doing what you asked them to do. You get what you ask for. You want windows? They'll give you windows.
That's a favorite part of my house.
There, I hear what you're saying. See, right here. Exactly. But understand that glass is an energy penalty. All right, now then, I've got a window prop here, and you folks sit in a good place here because you are credible, you're honest, and you're going to tell these folks exactly what you see. Can you all see those thermometers back there? Can you? Okay, great. What's this thermometer say back here?
It's well,
Okay.
yeah, I can.
Can you?
It's,
All right.
100.
Okay.
600?
What's this thermometer say back there?
I guess it'd be 110.
No. 100's way down there. This is way up here. See, there's 60 and there's 80, so it's about.
I'm looking at something else.
Okay. Would you agree it's about 76? Okay. So you don't have your glasses on. Okay. Well, can you see them? 76, 100, maybe even 102. Okay. All right. He's got glasses. All right. Okay. So what's the difference between these two windows? All right. Here's what it boils down to. This window, clear double pane glass. Let's call this your furnace, your heating system that you're paying to feed with energy, be it propane or natural gas or electricity or fuel, whatever. And that thermometer is sitting there where your recliner is or your spot on the couch. Okay, that is representing how much heat is going through into your home in the summertime. Okay? Double pane glass, right, right. Okay, now that's summertime. I said furnace, this is your sun. This is the sun outside, okay? This is the sun, that's your recliner in the summertime. Here's your recliner, the sun. Which glass do you want for your home if it's going to make that much difference? From 76 to 100. This one, okay. Now, let's say that is outside in the winter, and this is your heating system that you're feeding. And so now we're measuring the heat that's being lost through the glass to the outside. So over there we're losing 100 degrees of heat. This one's only losing 76 degrees of heat. So which one do you want? Same one. So what's the difference between these two windows? Well, let's see. Let me see if I can do this so that you all can see it here. If I hold these windows up here, can you all see a difference? No, it's not tinted. It's not tinted. But can you all see that? Did everybody see that? Can you all see? Got to do it down here for you all. No, it's not tinted. It's not. Hey. Please, they trust you. Tell them that's not tinting. It's not tinted.
It's dirty.
No, it's not dirty. It's aluminum. Now, the manufacturers know you won't buy windows if they're solid aluminum because you want to look out. So what they do at the factory is they spray on that one pane of glass what's called a sputter finish. If you were to look at that window under a magnifying glass, you see a whole bunch of little dots of aluminum or some kind of metal oxide. And there's enough of them there to reflect back a percentage, enough to make a 34-degree difference in temperature, all right? But there's still enough space between them for you to see through. So you get the effect of tinting, but it's really metal. So the manufacturers know that you ladies like your glass, so they've done what I'm suggesting you do, only they've done it in between the two panes of glass, so as you wash your windows, you can't get at it. You can wash and you scar and do all you want to. You can't get at it. It's in between the two panes. It's there forever, okay? So how do you know if a window's got that? Well, in the state of Kentucky, as in the state of Indiana, it is now the code. All windows going into a home must have that, and they call it the low E, emissivity, low E coating. That's the law. How do you know? Well, here's how you're going to be able to tell. Windows have two ratings called a U factor and a solar heat gain coefficient. U factor and solar heat gain coefficient. What you want to do is make sure that your window has got a U factor and a solar heat gain coefficient. U factor is for the winter, solar heat gain coefficient is for the summer. And when you've got a window that's got 0.3 for both of those or lower, lower is good, higher is not as good. So 0.30 or lower, you've got a window that's got that aluminum coating in because that's what it takes to get that level of performance. Clear glass windows without that are going to have a U factor and a solar heat gain coefficient of like 0.8 or 0.9, not very effective at all. All right? The higher the number, the worse it performs. So you want a low number. Okay? So when it gets down to it, I don't care what brand of windows you want. If you got a brand of window that a salesman made you think it's the best window in the world, fine. It don't matter to me. All right? But I want to know what's the U factor and solar heat gain coefficient. That's what I want to know, because that's what's going to tell me how that window's going to perform. Now, if you're going to put new windows in, windows that you can't open and close are the best. Can't open and close them, that's the best, because they don't leak. But if you go to Canada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, those places, you're going to find a lot of casement windows kind you crank out and crank back, because when you come back and you lock them, you forcibly pull them back against the weather stripping, that's going to seal much more effectively than single hung. And if you go to northern Indiana, this is what you're going to see. The top panel's fixed, but the bottom panel slides up and down. You come to southern Indiana, Kentucky, here's what you're going to find. Double hung. Both windows can slide up and down. You keep going south, you're going to see sliders. They slide back and forth. From an energy efficiency perspective, we are at the second least effective window with the double hung. All right? Now, when it comes to types of frames, the panes of glass are made out of what? Glass. If I were to build a frame and put around that made out of fiberglass, does it make sense that we've got very similar material here? So that the expansion and contraction of the two materials are very much the same. So when they build that window and try to seal it up, it's going to stay sealed much more effectively. But if you've got glass and you surround it with vinyl, does anybody know what hot and cold does to vinyl? Yeah, okay. If you really get hot, it melts. But just hot to cold, it'll expand and contract big time. What about wood when it comes to wet and dry?
Expands.
Does glass expand at the same rate that wet and dry does for wood, or hot and cold does for vinyl? No. So when you got two different, all of a sudden it's very challenging to get a seal there that's going to seal very well. Now, I'm telling you, fiberglass is the most expensive frames, but when it comes to effectiveness, they are the most effective frames. Okay? And then go back to your type, and you ask me what kind of windows I have in my home. Fiberglass, okay? I got fiberglass frames. Now, I got the casement, and I built my house like I've been talking about here 10 years ago. The first spring day, 72 degrees outside, the birds are singing, it's light breeze, it's fresh. You just say, oh, it's great to be alive. And in my case, great to be in southern Indiana. Your case, great to be in northern Kentucky. You know, just one of those kind of days. It just feels good to be and you want to open your house up, right? You want to freshen it up. And I told Rosemary, I said, no, don't do it. She did it anyway. That's how much clout I got. She opened the house up, and you know what? Here we are, 10 years later, she's never opened a window since. When she opened that window up, our home is so well designed and I've got effective, all that stuff, that on a day like I just described, she messed up the comfort we had in our home. And after a while, she could see dust floating around in the sunbeam in the air, you know, and we didn't have that before. And so she hasn't opened the window since. Because we are able to make an environment in our home that's comfortable every day and able to do it better than what Mother Nature can provide outside. So understand that when it gets down to it, windows are not a big deal when you have a high performance home.